Welcome to episode 18 of the SOC Level 2 pathway of TryHackMe, and we are continuing down with our detection engineering module today, and we're going through the Aurora EDR, which is the Endpoint Detection and Response acronym, and we're going to be using a Sigma-based tool, which is named Aurora. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I've never heard of this tool before, so we're going to be learning about this tool together. My name is Hank Hackerson, your host for today, and to get more videos like this one, or to get videos about SOC Level 1, Pentest Plus, or any of these other playlists that we got, there's a lot of good stuff that's on this channel. I do encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out. And I also want to introduce you to the Hackaholics Anonymous community, which is actually going to be the premier community inside of YouTube for security professionals and hackers. And that's my goal, to make it the premier community. And if you look at some of the perks, you'll really very quickly understand that that's what we're trying to do. So it's things like, Python automations for cybersecurity, pen testing, system administration. I create scripts, I give them to you, and you can use them for whatever you want, including your job, day to day, for your personal use. We have bug bounties that we come together and we combine forces to solve bug bounties, and then we split the money. We have the lives that happen for the members. We have the Discord chat that you get access to. There's exclusive content specifically for the members. There is early access to content. There's discount on merchandise. There's so many perks that are inside of this thing that honestly, the goal, my sincere intention, is to actually make it the best community for hacking and cybersecurity. So if you haven't checked it out already, definitely check out Hackaholics Anonymous. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And if nothing else, just subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a bunch of these videos comes out. So without further ado, that's all I got for you, and we're about to jump into the content for today. All right, so if you don't know what EDRs are, so basically endpoint detection and response systems. If you don't know what that is, you're going to get an overview of it again today, but there are several other videos on EDRs on this channel, so you can just go check those out as well. But Aurora is actually something that I've never worked with before, and it's a Sigma-based tool for detection, which is endpoint detection and response. So it's a Sigma-based tool for writing detection alerts via Windows event log. So it's Windows specific. And to make this work, we're going to have a few of these prerequisites, which is the cyber defense module, Windows event log, Sysmon, intro to detection engineering, and the Sigma room. And if you haven't seen any of these things, the cyber defense module, I've done portions of it. I haven't done the entire thing because it's next on my docket for content. But there are several of those rooms that we've already done. Windows event logs I already have done. There's a video on it on the channel, so you can go check that out. Same thing with Sysmon, same thing with intro to detection engineering, Sigma. And so all of those things, with the exception of the few different rooms inside of the cyber defense module, most of these are already done. So if you haven't already seen them, you can go check those out. You don't need to, because I will do my very best to explain everything that's going on inside of this room. So at least you still get a good idea of what's happening inside of this room. But it would be a complete foundation if you actually went and checked all these prerequisites out. The objective of the room is to intro to EDRs and what they actually do, intro to the event tracing for Windows, learn about Aurora and its functionalities to write alerts using event logs, and investigate suspicious events detected by Aurora. So we're going to be doing all of that stuff in our room today. So pretty excited about it. Let's jump into it. All right, what is an EDR? If you don't already know, what is an endpoint detection and response solution? So there's monitoring that happens, and that's a big part of what you do as an analyst. But there's something else that you need to do, which is connect these tools to endpoints. So an endpoint could be a cell phone, it could be a computer, it could be a server, it could be a website, a port on a website. So there's a lot of different endpoints that exist. And when you connect all of those endpoints to a detection tool, then what it does is it monitors all of these endpoints. And if something happens, if some kind of a alert is triggered, you get notified as the security analyst, and then you get to respond to it. Therefore, the name is Endpoint Detection and Response. And there's a lot of different tools for this. Wazoo is a really, really good one. I mean, there's so many. I'm kind of drawing a blank on all the different names. I just know Wazoo because I actually use Wazoo pretty regularly. But technically, SIM SIEM tools like Splunk and Kibana are also endpoint detection technically, because you can actually connect various endpoints and feed the logs and the traffic that come from those various endpoints to Splunk or to Kibana, and from there you will detect and then you will respond to whatever comes through it. So endpoint detection is like a general blanket term that covers a lot of different things, and then there are specific tools for specific environments. For example, Aurora, which is apparently a Windows-based tool. So the main functions of an EDR are to monitor and collect activity, as we just talked about, analyze the data to identify threat patterns. They can automatically respond to identified threats, which is basically either remove or contain them, and then notify the security personnel on staff. Then there's forensics and analysis tools to research identified threats and search for suspicious activity. So this is kind of like what happens after the incident, and you do forensics and analysis to see what just happened. And you can also do that using some of these tools. We can break down these functions into aggregation of data on an endpoint and how the data is analyzed and used to detect threats. Those are the kind of like the two general categories of what it can do. Data recording would be aggregating network communication, events, process execution, file activities, whatever, everything that happens on a network. Then telemetry, data points, telemetry. I forget how to pronounce this. Let's also do a search for what it actually means. So telemetry, whatever it is, automatically collects, transmits, and measures data from remote sources using sensors and other devices to collect data. So it's the automatic collection and transmission of data, and we have storage of data on the endpoints, for example, a server or a hybrid approach. And then we have the investigation of data. So this was the first part, right? Endpoint data recording, this part right here. And then you have the investigation, which could be sweeping or essentially searching for indicators of compromise, IOCs, to understand the impact of detection, find the root cause of detection, remediate, prevent, investigate again, hunt for indicators based on the attack, based on behavior rules of threat intelligence, and automatic detection or manual detection is a part of that. And then you have the components of EDR solutions. I'm not going to read all of this because the headline kind of gives it what you need. So you can detect, right? So endpoint detection, that's kind of the big piece of it, and it's in the title, right? So you can detect things that are going on for indicators of compromise for a threat or any kind of activity that might be happening attached to that endpoint. And then you have response. So you detect what's going on and then you respond. The response could be as simple as sending an email or a notification to somebody, or it could be, we're going to isolate this specific endpoint so that it doesn't infect the rest of our network, and whatever is happening on this endpoint, we don't want it to spread and compromise everything else, so we need to contain it or drop the connection or a variety of different things. Then you have integration, which you can integrate the specific EDR to a variety of other tools through either collection or aggregation of data. It could be integration to a Splunk resource or some kind of a SIEM resource. It could be integration to the API of an AI chatbot. There's a lot of different ways that you can integrate these tools with something else. And it could be the types of logs that you ingest or the type of data that comes in, or the data, how the data gets processed, or how the data gets output and sent out. You have insights, which is really nice because as a part of this tool, it can connect to a variety of different resources for intelligence. So it could be the CVE databases or the CVSS databases. It could be the MITRE attack framework. And it could just get you a bunch of insights based on what it's detecting and say, I think, this is the software talking. It tells you, hey, I think this is what's going on. And it gives you those insights. And then based on that, you can confirm whether or not that's actually a true positive, or if it's a false positive, or if it needs further investigation, so on and so forth. And then, of course, forensics. So when something happens, you need to go back and see what just happened and do an in-depth investigation of everything that went on. And it helps you do that as well because of the data that it collects and because of the integration that potentially can happen with forensic tools and digital forensics and all of that. So these are the general components of EDR solutions. Depending on which one you use, it may have more capability, it may have less capability, but generally it should be able to do at least 4 out of 5 of these things. So what does EDR stand for? All right, there we go. Endpoint detection and response is what EDR stands for. First question answered, and we are good. We're making progress here. All right, so let's talk about event tracing for Windows. All right, event tracing for Windows specifically is a Windows OS logging feature, and it allows you to trace and log events based on user mode applications and kernel mode drivers. So the stuff that the user does and the stuff that happens on the system. ETW provides the capability for applications and drivers to write events, and for us as cybersecurity defenders, it becomes a vital source of detection information. There are three parts to the ETW, which is the controller, and they're used to configure event sessions or event tracing sessions, and they also initiate the providers. An example would be the logman exe, and then the provider is the applications that produce the event logs. So these, the controllers, initiate providers, and the providers produce the event logs. And then you have the consumers, which are the applications that subscribe and listen to events in real time or from a file. And more often than not, it's going to be in real time when you're doing analysis and detection. And from a file is when you're doing it for forensics, because you're looking back at what previously happened. If it's in a file, that means it's already happened. More often than not, that's what's going on. It's kind of weird to set something up to read in real time from a file. So you typically set it up to ingest the information directly from the endpoint instead of reading it from the file that's being generated from the endpoint. I hope that makes sense. This is the visual of what this looks like. So we have the controllers, and they go back and forth. They have this cycle that they go back and forth between the event training sessions. And the event training sessions can have a variety of buffers, and we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. And the events themselves get sent into log files, and then the log files send out the events that are the logged events, and they go to the consumers, which is the software that processes what just happened. Providers are the first step to this. So as you can see, it's weird the way that they have this thing, but this should be number one and should be at the very top. But the providers are the various log sources, the various endpoints that provide the data. It goes inside of our event tracing sessions, and the controllers navigate this whole thing and process this thing and make it so that they can be turned out as events and turned into log files and be available for consumers to process. So you can either go through the log files and go to the consumer, or you can just go from the event to the controller to the consumer directly in real time. And more often than not, when you're doing endpoint detection and response, it's happening in real time. And what you're doing in forensics is happening from log files because it's already happened, essentially. We have our Windows Event Viewer, which is one of the kind of like the premier. I think there's also a video that I did on the Event Viewer, actually. It creates a bunch of logs. It can ingest a variety of different logs from a variety of different sources. And you can have for access, so the things that were accessed on the system, any kind of security change that might be of interest, operating system errors, hardware errors or hardware failures, driver malfunctions, and we'll look at how these things are prevented via the viewer in a minute. These are the various categories of classification or categorization, I guess. So information is basically, hey, something happened, and if you want more information about it, it's here. A warning is something that might not be a present issue or like a current issue, but it can cause problems. An error is something happened with a service or application and it crashed. Maybe somebody forced it to crash. Maybe it crashed by itself. You have a success audit, which is an audited security access that was successful. And then you have a failure audit. That's an audit security access that failed. So failed login attempt could be a failed audit. A successful login could be a success audit. And so this is kind of what it looks like when we're looking at the actual event viewer itself. And I mean, I have a Windows machine, so we're going to click around and try to find these things ourselves. But you have the event viewer right here. And then under that, you have the custom views. And then you have just these generic Windows event logs. And then you can even create various sources to create logs from. And you can then click on the application log, for example, and it'll bring you a variety of different events from the application log. And then on the general, when you just click on Windows logs, on the overview right here, on the summary, it gives you the number of errors and the warnings and information right here. You see all of that happening on the overview, and then you can go deeper into it to try to see exactly what each event was and what happened and try to find further details from it. And this is what that looks like. So if we are on the application log right here and we click on one of these events, we get a bunch of information at the bottom right here. You can go into the details of it because there's general and then there's details. And then you can even use the sidebar right here to filter through the information and to try to find other data points that might be of interest to you. There is the Windows event log room, which I know I have done, and there should be a video of that available for us. Yep, I have definitely done this. So you can go check that out. Just search for Windows event logs on the channel inside the search bar, and you'll be able to find it. Okay, so here are some questions here. So it says, which applications produce event logs? And these would be our providers. Yeah, there we go. Applications that subscribe to event logs are called, I want to say these are the consumers. Very good. And which event level would be used to describe a significant problem with a service? That would probably be an error. And what is the Windows event log category responsible for recording events associated with programs currently running? And we have that right here. It's our system. The system records events related to programs installed and running on our system, on our computer. And there we go. So that is our basic introduction to Windows event logs. And I feel like I should probably just pull it up here. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Aurora is a Windows endpoint agent. It uses Sigma rules and indicators of compromise to detect patterns using the event tracer. And when a true positive matches, Aurora triggers the response actions that'll be displayed under the Windows event log viewer. And it's been designed to be customizable based on Sigma rule set. So we've done several videos on Sigma already. The last two videos actually that came out from this module were the Sigma and SigHunt. So Sigma was kind of like an overview of it, and SigHunt was just an exercise where we just created a bunch of different Sigma rules to detect certain indicators of compromise. So Aurora, and then there's Aurora Lite. So these are the two different versions of it. I feel like we're going to probably end up using Aurora Lite because it's less capable and probably either free. Yeah, it's open source, so it's open source. This one is also open source, or it has the open source, but I think it has a closed source or a enterprise version that allows you to kind of deal with a much busier and a larger network. So the things that just stand out from the very, very beginning, because all of these things are exactly the same on both sides. And then you have the alert output also, that's all the same. So all of these things are the same. It's just that with Aurora, or not Aurora Lite. So there are four things that come up with the regular instance of Aurora, which is Asgard, which I don't know what it is, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. I'm sure it's not where Thor comes from. Additional detection modules, unlimited number of response actions, and rule encryption. So those things come with the regular version of Aurora. It obtains data from different ETW channels and adds live information for commercial versions. So yeah, this one is the commercial version from what I understand. To enrich and recreate events similar to those generated by Sysmon, it does not create tons of logs. It only populates the viewer with events of triggered rules. That's very useful actually. It doesn't create a bunch of logs. It only populates the stuff that was triggered by the rules that we create for Sigma. Below, we can look at the comparison between Aurora and Sysmon. So the event source is event tracing for Windows on here, and Sysmon would be the kernel driver. Sigma rule event coverage is 95%. This is 100%. Relative log volume is low. This one is high. Sigma and IOC matching. This one actually has it. So Aurora has it. Sysmon does not have Sigma IOC matching. Response actions are available on an EDR. It's not available on Sigma or on Sysmon. Resource control. So there's a lot of things that comes with Aurora, but that does not come with Sysmon. But these things at the bottom right here. So incomplete data due to filters. There are I guess there are incomplete data due to filters on sysmon, if I'm reading that correctly. Blue screen, don't know what that really is. High system load, and that is also a yes right here. So these risks don't exist with Aurora. So there is no incomplete data due to filters. There is no blue screen. There is no high system. I think they just mean an actual blue screen. I don't know if that's different or whatever, but that's it. So it's on supported on Windows 7, Windows Server 12, or newer versions. It must run using administrator privileges. It must also be excluded from any running antivirus or EDR solutions. This is to avoid the application being blocked from executing its services. So you gotta put it on the whitelist essentially for your antivirus or EDR solutions, so it doesn't they don't block it from processing. We can look at it with the user manual if we wanted to learn how to install and configure it, but it's come pre-installed on the machine that we have right now, so we're just going to be using it. These are some of the presets. So you have the standard, which covers events at medium level of security. Reduced covers events considered to be at a high minimum reporting level. Minimal looks at events considered to be at a high minimum. These two are exactly the same. I don't understand. Intense looks at events to be at a low minimum reporting level. So high minimum and low minimum. That's the phrasing kills me sometimes. I'm like, what are you even saying to me, bro? Okay, cool. We have affected settings, deactivated resources, CPU limit, process normality, or process priority, minimum reporting level, and deactivated modules. So this is what it looks like in these different things. So at least we can kind of try to make sense of it here. So for standard, this is the deactivated sources. CPU limit is 35. Process priority normal. Minimum reporting level is medium. For reduced, we're using 30% of the CPU. Normal, high reporting level. For minimal, we're now getting more deactivated sources. So reduced has less deactivated sources. 20% CPU, low process priority, high reporting level. And for intense, there is no minimal. There is no deactivated resources. It's literally everything. It's looking at everything. It is 100% CPU limit. Process priority is normal, and it has a low minimum reporting level, which I still don't really understand, but whatever. We are now going to look at running this thing, and it's being run from the command line from it seems. Oh, this is actually PowerShell, I believe. So this is being run from PowerShell, and I have an actual icon on my desktop, so I can just double click that, but I want to run it from PowerShell actually. I think it would be really, really cool. So running it with minimal configurations would be the minimal YAML file, and running for continuous running. So this is started directly by the command line with the option of selecting the preferred configuration. If you want it to run continuously, it can run as a service through the install flag. So instead of just running it once, if you just wanted to run it continuously, you would just add the install flag. Everything else stays the same. And these are some of the useful flags that we got here. So the status queries status information from the currently running service. The trace queries all the events that Aurora monitors from the subscribed channels. It also provides complete event statistics. And then we have our output options, or JSON, I'm sorry. So outputs information in JSON format. And then we have the output options. That could be the Windows event log that we just saw earlier. And you can see that under the source, it actually shows Aurora agent right here under the source for the application. And then Sigma rule match found, terminal, so on and so forth. So it actually shows that. We have a log file that we can export to a log file. And then we also have the std out, which just basically displays it onto the screen. You have UDP TCP targets. So you can have an internal repository via UDP or TCP using the flags, and then they require arguments in the form of host and port, such as this, and it can direct the Aurora events to an internal repository via your UDP or TCP ports, and just send the information to somewhere else apart from the computer that it's actually scanning from. And then we have our responses. So these are the automated responses that you can run via Aurora. It can help contain a threat actor or limit their damage to the system, and the use cases for these are worm containment, ransomware containment, and the hard blocking of applications. Two responses are predefined and custom. These are the predefined responses. So you could suspend it, so stop the process, kill it, meaning kill the process, and dump being create a dump file in the dump path folder, but it doesn't suspend or kill the thing. You could probably do a combination of these things. Custom responses are meant to call the internal program to execute a function based on the raised alert. So you use another program to respond in some capacity. The program has to be available from the path, and the answer would be a command line query. With these responses, a set of flags can be used to modify and relay different types of information. They have been summarized below. So simulate would be to test out the rules and responses that won't be triggered. A log will be created to indicate the response. Recursive is to specify that the response will affect descendant processes. It's usually true by default. Privilege only, low privilege only, is by the low priv only flag. It specifies that the response will be triggered if the target process does not run as the local system. Ancestor specifies that the response will affect the process's ancestor and not itself. So the key value pair is indicated by integers to show the level of ancestors. Example 1 is for parent process, 2 is for grandparent, and so on and so forth. I understand how this works. So I like that name, ancestor. It's interesting. And then you have the PID, process ID. So process ID field specifies the field contains the process ID and shall be affected by the response. So the response could be, this is a predefined type of a response, the action is to kill, and parent process ID is what we put in over here. Predefined suspend, custom, and then this is the action. The action is the actual command that you run. So it's the CMD, copy the image from program data, yada, 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 inside the binary, or it is a binary file. Then we have our event IDs, which I'm not going to spend time reading right now because this is going to be very, very overwhelming if I just wanted to sit here and read all of this. But you can just look up Aurora event IDs on Google like this, and then you will get a list of event IDs from Aurora Agent User Manual, and open that up and look at that. We got all the event IDs right here as well. So it's not hard to find the Aurora event IDs, so I'm not going to read through all this stuff, but we are probably going to refer to them as we go throughout the room. So here are our questions. So which Aurora preset supports the highest CPU limit? And that was the, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's the very last one. So how did they phrase the last one? Intense is the one that we're looking for. I'm just going to copy it and bring it down here real quick. Very good. And which process would be terminated when the response flag ancestor 3 is used? So if 1 is for the parent and 2 is for the grandparent, 3 would probably be the great grandparent. All right, there you go. Grandparent in this case is not supposed to be hyphenated. When the Aurora agent is terminated, which event ID will be used? So here we go. Okay, so what we got here are the Aurora agent started and agent is terminating. I'm guessing that's the one. I don't know if it's terminated, but I'm going to say that might be the one, 103. Yep, that is indeed the one, like Neo. Okay, cool. So we got that. Now we're going to move on to the function tests. Our function tests, which is actually very useful in my opinion, are essentially tests that you can run to check the functionality of Aurora, basically. You can look at, for example, in this case, we're going to look at some sigma matching and indicator of compromise matching examples. So for example, if this one says that listing user account privileges, so if somebody runs this command, they're essentially checking the privileges of the current user that they're logged in as. And when that happens, it'll trigger a sigma rule that has a high level of severity, and it creates a warning level message on our event log. So this is what it will look like. So this is it right here. So you have the warning, and it's from Aurora agent. And when you look at the details of it, it says, run who am I showing privileges is the actual title of this whole thing. And then when you go down here in the command line section, you actually see the command that they ran. And it's a high level rule right here. And it's, it's a big deal. It's a very important thing, because typically it's like, well, why are you running that command? Why do you want to know what your privileges are? And that should trigger some kind of an event. And then we have the suspicious network communication. So when running a DNS beaconing request, beaconing is typically applied to command and control servers or C2 servers, where there's some kind of a communication that's happening between a remote server that's been connected to our local machine, and where they're getting detailed information from the local machine, and they're connected. They can essentially do a number of things, and it's really, really bad. So when something like that happens, a warning message is triggered, and then we get the same thing, right? So Cobalt Strike is one of the attacks that had happened based on a C2 server command and control attack previously. So this is similar to that. This is what the rule was made based on. It's a critical level rule. It's not even high level, it's critical. And the description is right here, is that there's a TCP IP ping that's being sent out to a specific command control server or some kind of a place. And yeah, that's what triggered this particular one. So, you get the rule references from whatever the initial location or domains were. You get the GitHub repository for that specific rule that triggered it. So these are just two examples of potential function tests that you can run. But if you just use Gemini, I love using Gemini because it's from Google and it's very quick to access. If you go to Gemini and just ask, hey, I work for this company, this is what we do. You don't need to give it any crazy details. You just say, this is the industry that we're in, this is the environment that we have set up, and I want to know what types of Sigma rules I can use for Aurora to just make sure that at the very least I have some basic configurations running and the types of rules that are going to be triggered for our specific type of environment, or for, we had these types of attacks that were done against us, and these are the indicators of compromise that our defense team gathered, and I want to create some Aurora Sigma rules. What would I do? And then you kind of chat back and forth with Gemini, and it gives you a lot of great information. So that is it for our Aurora function test, and there's no questions for us to answer. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is the detection gaps, the Aurora detection gaps. Since Aurora uses the ETW, the Event Tracer for Windows, to observe and monitor Windows' events, there are some sections where the ETW events aren't available or they're not easily usable. And these areas cover the detection gaps for Aurora, and this is what they look like. So we have the named pipes, which is a one-way communication channel between processes that are subject to security checks, okay? ETW has no provider to gather information about these things. And observing named pipes is through the kernel object handle, which is noisy and can provide unnecessary information. So this is one of the things that is one of the gaps, because the only way that it can do it through, or observing named pipes specifically, is through the kernel object handle, which ends up being noisy, and it just gives you a lot of unnecessary alerts and triggers, which it just makes your job extra hard. And that's the whole idea. The main purpose behind Aurora is to only send things that have been triggered by Sigma rules. It's not supposed to just log everything. So that's one of the main gaps here. And the solution is to just run Aurora under intense configurations and complement the configuration with Sysmon to capture those specific events. And this, again, is it's kind of like an overview. We talked about running it under intense configurations earlier, but that's not really what they explain in the scope of this particular room. So I would, again, take this piece and copy it and paste it inside of Gemini and literally say, hey, can you explain what this means and how I can do this? How can I complement Aurora configurations with Sysmon? And it'll give you a detailed step-by-step answer. So that's why I love using these chatbots. It's great for learning as well as getting things to be done for you. I actually use them for learning more than anything else, because I don't want it to do things for me. I want it to teach me how to do it myself. And it just happens to be one of the best tutors that you can get for free. So if you're not using Gemini or, ChatGPT or what's the other one? There was like a really, of course, the Meta AI is also really, really functional. I really love the Meta AI as well. As long as you have some kind of Facebook account, you can log into Meta and get access to their AI. There's one that I'm missing, Claude. Claude is another really, really good one, but they have a lot of limitations to how frequently you can use it without getting a paid account. But again, just really, really powerful AI. So those are great, great tools. Registry events are the events that are generated by ETW by creating keys or writing values, primarily via the Windows kernel. However, this information may not be directly usable, as all registry handles must be tracked individually as keys are referenced by their handle. So this is one of the other gaps that are an issue for ETW combined with Aurora. So again, you would run it under intense configurations and complemented with using sysmon to capture those events. And then finally, we have ETW disabled. So the event tracer has been disabled. And this is something that the attackers can do by patching the system calls that Windows would use to create events from the user environment. Then writing detection rules based on those events that are from the process and are caused by a provider that is not the kernel should be done with care. So essentially, if you're writing detection rules for anything other than the Windows kernel, you need to be careful how you write this thing, because of the fact that potentially it could be disabled by attackers, and you may end up running either not having enough results or getting too much results, or it might be something that's obvious to the attacker that they can take advantage of. So this specific thing, it needs to be done with care. And the solution to this is that the full version, so this would be the enterprise version, not the light version of Aurora, uses the ETW Canary module to detect any manipulations of the event tracer. So having the paid version of this actually can just detect those manipulations automatically. And then using the flag for report stats allows for reporting the agent status to your SIM, and it will include stats of the observed process and dropped events that can potentially be signs of manipulations. So using this as you run Aurora could report those statistics to the SIM that you're using that includes any of the observed events, processed or dropped events that indicate signs of manipulation of the event tracer. So that is how we can look at potential detection gaps. And if you need more information on that, I would recommend taking some of this information, going to Gemini or ChatGPT or Meta AI or Claude, whatever your preferred AI is, and ask it to explain these things to you and give you examples, maybe help you write some sample rules so you can really see how this whole thing works out. So that's all we got for the detection gaps. And let's now actually go into the interactive scenario. Let's actually play around with this and try to get some answers. All right, I've already launched the VM and it should be up and running pretty easily. So I'm going to actually double click on this because I know it's going to take a little bit of a minute for it to fully run. It says that it has some time that it needs to run down. So while that's actually running, we're going to read our little scenario. So a series of suspicious activities have been observed within these systems, and the Chief Information Security Officer has recently heard about Aurora, has tasked you to carry out tests on one of the Windows hosts and assess the detection capabilities. It's been installed on our host, however, it's not running, so to execute the batch file attached on this thing, which I already did, and then investigate any produced events starting with the event ID 1 associated with Aurora to answer the questions below. And in case no events appear, just rerun the batch file. If you wanted to RDP into the machine, you can do that as well, but I already have it loaded as my virtual machine right here, so you don't need to do that, or I'm not going to do that anyways. And that's it. So we're just going to run this. So the time has already passed, so I'm going to press any key to continue. Okay, now I got to wait another 25 seconds or so for all of this stuff to finish running, and then once that's done, we'll again press any key to continue. Okay, so once I did the any key portion of this, it kind of glitched right here, and then it took me here, and then the timer stopped, and then I tried to run the batch file again, and it said failed because it's already running. And so I ran the command that we had earlier to just check the status of Aurora to see how it's going, and I ran it inside PowerShell. As you can see, it's running. The status is running. The outputs are going to the event log. Okay, after you run the batch file, the command interface, or the essentially the black screen where our CMD screen was, that just closes out. And then I ran this specific command, which is for checking the status of Aurora. You have to actually CD or change the directory into the directory that the Aurora agent is installed inside of program files, and then you just run it. So for me, it was the 64 version. That was the only thing that was available. And I just ran status, and then you see right here, it's running. The outputs are the application event log, Windows application event log. These are the active modules that are running. These are the rule statistics, located IOCs. So we have 50,000 located IOCs, domain IOCs, file name IOCs. And events that have been observed for so far are 54,000 plus events. And this is all the information that you see right here. And then we have the Sigma matches that are number 3, so on and so forth. So this is basically it. This is what we got right here. There are no response actions that have been configured, so all of that stuff has been disabled. So we're going to go look at our question. So it says, what is the title of the first event rule? So I opened up our event viewer here, and I'm looking at the Windows logs under application. And this is basically our first series of events. I think it's running in, I'm not sure if this is in date order or exactly what kind of order. But we were told to look at everything that was with event ID 1. So these are all the ones that we have with event ID 1. And let me see if there's something also under security. And let's see if we change the source. The source is all Microsoft. Let me see. Let me go all the way to the top and see what we get. Event log. So it doesn't have anything from Aurora inside of security. And it doesn't seem to be having anything for any of the other ones as well. I think the only thing that we got is through the application. Yeah, we don't have anything for all of this. So forwarded, or excuse me, for application is the only thing that we got over here. And under event ID, we have event ID 1 that, let me see. So it says we're looking at the event rule that was triggered. So, right, that's the question. Let me see. So it says, what is the title of the first event rule? And our hint says WMI event. Okay, so these are, we only have 4 that have an event ID of 1. And then when we come down here, you actually see the rule title. So hiding files with attribute da 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 da. We were told to look for something that has WMI. So this is the one that is the WMI event right here. And the rule title is process reconnaissance via WMI exe. So, or WMIC exe. So let's see if that's the one. That is the one. Very good. What is the rule ID of the matched Sigma rule? So I'm guessing that this is for the one that they're talking about. So we're going to go and get this rule ID right here. And let's go and drop that right here. Very good. And what is the Sigma rule level of the event? And let's see that. It says medium right down there. So medium. And what is the rule title of the second event? And so in this case, what do we got? We got, this is one event, which is hiding files with attribute exe. This is the WMIC. And this is, again, hiding files with attribute exe. And this is also WMIC. So I think there's only 2. So this has to be the second one. We only had 2. There was either WMIC or attribute.exe. Okay, so that's not it. So maybe it's this one that we have a second rule. Now, I'm not exactly sure which one we're supposed to be looking at. So it wasn't that one. That's basically what we've discovered. So if it's not this one, the second event could be event number 11. So let's see if that's the one. So suspicious creation txt file in desktop. There we go. Okay, that is the one. So they're essentially saying event ID number 1, and then we got event ID or the second event ID, which would be number 11, and then we got 95, 99, etc. Okay, cool. So based on the rules characteristics, what malicious activity is associated with the event? So going to, let's go back to 11. Based on the rules characteristics, what malicious activity is associated with the event? What does the hint say? It says, look at the rule description. Okay, so let's see. Ransomware create txt file on the user desktop. So I'm going to say ransomware is the keyword that we're looking for here. And that is it. That is it. That's all we got. I mean, that was, I thought we were going to get a lot more information, honestly. But that is all we got. And we have, you know, just to kind of glaze through the rest of these. So we got could not read rule file, which was the event ID 95 that gave us an error message. We have another one that was on January 24th that was generated by Aurora as well, which was important Windows event log cleared. So they cleared the event log inside Windows That's a warning message. These are just informative. Let's see if we can find another warning message from Aurora. We got some errors. Yeah, that was it. Those were the only ones that were like warning messages. Apart from that, we just had a couple of error messages that doesn't give us any information. It just says no valid license found. So that's probably because we're using the light version of Aurora. And apart from that, that's basically all we got, because the only warning ones that we got were the ransomware text file being created, as well as the those first two, which was the event creation, or not, I'm sorry, it was the reconnaissance via WMIC, and then the attribute.exe. So those were the only two events that were logged under event ID number 1, and then under event ID number 11 was the ransomware file that was created. So that's basically all we got for this particular Aurora detection exercise. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to know that there is something like this that is specific to Windows that you can run, and it'll operate based on all of the Sigma rules that have been uploaded to their GitHub repository. And it comes pre-configured with a bunch of Sigma rules. And if you wanted to, you can create your own Sigma rules for it. And just like that, we have completed our Aurora room. Again, it was kind of a quick read through of the fact, okay, that hey, there's an Aurora tool that exists for this, and it works specifically for Windows environment. It runs based on Sigma rules. It's good because it doesn't overpopulate your event log with a bunch of different triggers and a bunch of different alerts. It only operates based on Sigma rules that have been pre-configured, or Sigma rules that you write and you configure into your software installation. And that's it. That's the only purpose that it has, is to operate based on indicators of compromise and Sigma rules that have been created. And it's for Windows. So in most computers inside of any kind of enterprise environment are Windows computers. So they're not going to be Linux or Unix computers. And to know that there's a tool like this that exists is actually very helpful. And it's good to know how to, use it. The installation was not covered in this particular case, although over here it does tell us that, if you wanted to just kind of run it perpetually, you can run the exe file with install, and it just runs regularly. It runs as a service for continuous running. And then if you just wanted to run it once, you would be able to run it like that. But that's all we got. We didn't have any installation information. You can get that from Gemini, and I would say that you would get a lot of great detailed information from Gemini as far as the installation is concerned. But I feel like you can also just go to their GitHub page, and there's going to be a lot of great intel and information for how to install Aurora. But that is basically it. That's all we got for this particular room and this particular video. If you got any value out of this video, or if you would like to get more videos like this in the future, or if you want to go check out the rest of the videos that we got on this channel, I do encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out, and drop a comment. The comment section is super live over here, and it's one of those things that it just becomes more and more humbling every time that I go through it, and I see the communication that happens not just between me and the people that are subscribing and commenting, but between the community members themselves. They actually talk to each other, they correct each other, they correct me. I've gotten a lot of corrections from people, and they also kind of check each other, which has been really interesting to see. I really like the fact that people talk to each other, and they kind of make sure that everybody inside the community is very respectful. And that's one of the big things that I really genuinely love about our community. I think that we have some of the highest class people. They're jokesters, don't get me wrong. Like, they do talk smack and they do talk shit and everything like that, but it's all done with a light-hearted kind of a tone and light-hearted mood. And it's just all support, it's all love, and everybody, we all know why we're here. So everybody's here for the same purpose, to learn, to grow, to advance. And it's just nice to see everything inside the comments. And now what's nice is that if you actually ask a really good comment that has like a good question inside of it, I'll create a video for your specific comment. So for example, one of our guys, his name is David. He's actually also one of our Hackaholics Anonymous members. He asked the question to create something for sysadmins for Linux. And I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and do that. And I made the video, and it became one of our most popular videos because apparently a bunch of other people also wanted to get information about Linux system administration and so on and so forth. So the next one is going to be about Python for cybersecurity, because that's also something else that I saw inside the comment section, using Python specifically for cybersecurity. And I mean, anything else, literally, if you guys drop a comment that it has a good question, it has a good request in it, I will make a video specifically for you, and I'll even shout you out at the beginning of the video to say that go thank this person, because it was because of them that we were able to make this video. So this is it. This is the Linux SysAdmin video, and it's not even 9 days old, and it's one of my, as for me, 15,000 views on a video is a really, really big deal. I don't buy any of my views and none of that stuff. So it's a very, very big deal that less than 10 days we got 15,000 views. My next biggest video is 18,000 views. So you can see that, you know, and that was 4 months ago. So it was a very, very popular video, the Linux video. So, you know, again, if you drop a comment, if you have a question, and if I can't answer your question inside the comment itself because it's too long of an answer, I will make a video just for you. That being said, I also want to give a shout out to our Hackaholics Anonymous community. This is going to be, sincerely, because it's my intention, it's my goal to make sure that it is. It's going to be the premier YouTube community for security professionals and hackers. And there are everything in here. For example, bug bounties. I'm going to explain what they are in just some public videos, but we actually combine our forces for bug bounties to solve some of these bug bounties for these big companies and make money, and then split the money accordingly. And I don't know exactly how we're going to split it. We have to figure that out inside the community itself. But we are going to do bug bounties together, solve problems together, make money together. There's Python automations for system administration, ethical hacking, and cybersecurity. There's exclusive content. There's live streams that happen just for the members. There's early access that they get to stuff. There is the discounts that they get on the merchandise that happens. And I mean, there are so many more things that I can't really think of right now, because it's like a long list of perks that I'm giving away. And it's not one of these communities where we say, hey, listen, just give us $25 a month and thank you so much for being a supporter. That's not how it's going to work. I'm going to give a lot of value in exchange for the hard-earned dollars that you guys give as a contribution to this community. So it really is genuinely my intention to make it the best community for security professionals and hackers on YouTube, and that's Hackaholics Anonymous. So if you have not checked it out already, this is the description video on our homepage on the channel, and you will get a chance to get details on all of this stuff, including why I'm doing this, as well as all the perks and the different levels that we have. And if you want to join, apparently it's kind of like a big deal. I didn't know that it was hard to find the join button. Some people are saying that the join button isn't there. You just go to youtube.com/@HankHackerson, and then when you click on that, there should be a /join at the end of it as well. When you click on that, there should be a pop-up that says, hey, this is right here, like this. So you get the join option, and it gives you, can I pause this? Yeah, and it gives you the join with all the different perks that we have and all the different levels that we have. So it would be youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join. That's the link. Or you can just click the link in the description of the actual video itself, and it should take you to that. And that's it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker/protector. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you. Love, peace, and chicken grease, and I will see you in the next video. Later.